Yo, let's talk about AI versus a camera with manual controls and different lenses, like an interchangeable lens camera, and process basically. Like I've been watching all these videos about AI, and they're like, look at this amazing thing, and I actually saw a video today where somebody actually put a smile on somebody's face that wasn't there, and it looked totally real. And I guess they looked at it as a miracle, like it was an amazing thing. And I guess it is kind of miraculous, but I'm not into that. Like, I'm not even remotely interested in that. I'm also not remotely interested in taking a photo and making it a wider photo and the AI creating the wideness that looks appropriate to what you took. Like, why not just get your framing correct and get it the way you want it? Like, I'm just not with this, like, what are we to believe is going to be real and not real? But you know what? I don't want to complain about this, because I also don't see anything wrong with when somebody just uses like a point and shoot or a phone to take photos or make video, where they leave everything on auto and they just shoot. And there's something to be said for that too. If you're telling a great story, if you're, just putting something together that makes sense and it's creative, it's cool. But I guess the thing is, for me, I don't want to lose the process. Like, I want to choose my aperture. I want to choose how blurry I want the background to be. Like right now, I don't want you to know where I am. I don't want you to really know anything about this room or how messy it is. So I have completely blurred out the background. Like, I'm shooting at f2 on a 50mm manual lens. Okay, I'm using a Panasonic S5, the original one. I'm using a Minolta 50mm Rokkor f1.4. Now, if I shot at f1.4, I wouldn't be able to move, but it would be even blurrier. It would just be like a blob behind me, which, it's kind of cool sometimes. I'm not personally into that much bokeh, but in this case, I didn't want you to know what was behind me. And so, yeah, I guess with an iPhone, you could use portrait mode, and you could kind of create that without creating it yourself. But I don't know, is that creating it yourself? Because you're choosing to do it. I guess you can't choose to what degree you're doing it. And I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy choosing the aperture that I'm using for a video. I mean, I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a still photographer, but I do shoot photography sometimes. And I just enjoy the process. I like getting my white balance together. I like dealing with my ISO. Choosing whether or not I want to use the high, like I have a dual native ISO on this camera. So I'm going to use either 640 or 4000. The only reason I would use 4000 at night is because I want to mess with my aperture. So in that case, I'm going to use an ND filter. You see what I'm saying? Like with AI, I wouldn't have to do any of that. I could just put the camera up and just shoot. And then I could fix it all in post. I don't know, that's like taking away a whole process for me, It's like, when I recorded albums, I enjoy the process. Like, I played all the instruments, I didn't just use all samples or something like that. And I got no problem with people sampling. I'm a purist for my own work, for myself. But I'm not a purist in that I will never judge anybody for the way that they work, for their process. If you want to use all loops or samples or whatever, that's fine. But for me, I enjoy playing the guitar, the piano, drums. Like, I want to go through that process. That's fun for me. And also, I could be much more specific in that way. I don't have to search for 20 years to get exactly what I want. I don't even like to use stock footage. I have never used stock footage. I'm working on a movie right now where I could actually use some stock footage, but I'm not going to do it. I'm killing myself to get these shots, to get some sound effects. I'm doing them myself because I enjoy doing that. But AI can do that. I guess the problem is we don't really know what's real and what's not when you start putting smiles on people's faces. And also, I personally think people should be required to reveal if they're using AI or not, because of the ramifications of what can happen socially and politically. Like, we should know what we're looking at. And I believe the same thing when it comes to Instagram or whatever. Like, I think people should have the integrity to say, you know what, I'm using AI and I'm using it creatively, and I hope you enjoy what I did. But don't say that you're doing the same thing that I'm doing. That's kind of weird, you know? I don't know. I'm not into it. And also, you know, people say, well, it doesn't matter what camera you buy now. Like, you know, people are always saying the equipment doesn't matter, but of course equipment matters, you know? The capabilities, like I have shutter angle on this camera, so I don't have to be changing my shutter speed to keep the 180 rule all the time. And, you know, I have like great video assist features in this camera, waveforms, things like that. I mean, if I have just a AI, you know, full camera, like the Sony ZV-E1, I don't need to worry about any of that. You know, it's done for me. Like, I guess it makes it accessible for everybody to work in that way, right? Which is kind of cool, but for me personally, I don't know, that's destroying my sense of artistry, my sense of creativity. I'm just not into that. You know, I want to choose my camera based on what it can do, based on what I want to do with it. I'm not trying to buy a camera that does everything, because I don't do everything. Nobody does everything, you know? But that's why I like using manual lenses. I like manually focusing. I like choosing which eye I want to focus on. I like choosing my aperture, like I said. I like that. You know, I don't do it because it's just cheaper. I do like the way vintage lenses look too. And yeah, you know, vintage, old lenses. I like the way they look because they're not perfect. But you know, the thing about AI is you can make your stuff look imperfect in post. I don't know. I don't want to judge anybody. I don't ever want to look down upon anything. Things change. That's the nature of art and anything in culture, in life. Things change. You know, everything's temporary, right? There's nothing that's permanent. But when you're taking away my creative process, you know, I'm a theater artist. Like, I enjoy the process of memorizing a script. You know, if you just put the titles in front, you know, put the words in front of me on stage or something like that, I don't want to deal with that. I want the words in my body. I don't feel like I can present a story to you unless the words are inside of my body. Like I'm speaking to you from the inside out, not from the outside back to you. It needs to be in me so I can like grab these characters and add myself, my organs, my blood, my connective tissue, my muscles, everything. Like I want to add to that. And the only way for me to do that is to put the words into my body. It's the same thing with making movies. You know, I want to control what I'm shooting and the way that I'm shooting it. I want to know that when I frame something, that's what the frame is. I don't want to go to post and go, oh, I can make this wider. Or, you know, like, but I guess, you know, people crop all the time. I mean, I could argue with myself all day. But I do know that myself, I'm not into AI. I'm going to fight it every step of the way. I don't use autofocus, but, you know, I use talk to text on my cell phone. You know, that's kind of AI, right? Certainly use like autocorrect, although I hate autocorrect, but I also appreciate it sometimes. So I don't know, it's a conundrum. Like, do you really have to decide what camera you want if you're probably somebody who's younger than me and just getting into this, and that's the way things are going to be from now on? Like, maybe if you're doing client work, maybe moving forward, clients or people that you're working for or working with, you know, directors, cinematographers, maybe they won't appreciate you having to take the time to change your settings and focus and all that kind of stuff. You know, maybe they're going to be like, what are you doing? Like the last guy I worked with, or the last woman I worked with, just put the camera up and just was perfect. That might happen. But in my case, if you're making your own movies, nobody's going to take my creative process from me. So it's part of the reason I choose the Panasonic S5. You know, it had all these great video assist features. It was anamorphic, you know, enabled, so I could put an anamorphic lens on this and I don't have to use an external monitor. And had all kinds of other, you know, the manual assist for manual focus is really amazing, so much better than my old Sony camera. I just love this camera so much, you know, aside from the image quality and stuff like that. I love the fact that I have to be a part of the process. I love putting old lenses, you know, manual lenses on it. I don't, you know, I got a Sigma 28-70 f2.8 lens. It's autofocus, you know, it's electronically connected to the camera, but I hardly ever use it because it just feels kind of boring to me. I mean, it looks incredible. I'm not mad at the way it looks, you know. My vintage lenses are not that different, you know. It's not that, like, you know, if I did a story that had kind of an old look to it, you know, or an old feel to it, and I shot it with the Sigma, it would still be fine, you know, but I enjoy this more. And it does look a little bit different, so I do get that old quality, you know. But I don't use the Sigma all that much because it bores me. Like if I'm in a situation where it's requiring me making decisions on the go and I can't really futz with, you know, my aperture and my white, you know, like I have to have some autofocus, at least some. I got to be able to zoom in and out because I don't even like using zoom lenses. But if I'm in a situation like that, I'll probably use the Sigma. But I don't know, you know, like I bought it. I think about selling it almost every day. You know, I'm glad I have it because it is good to have one zoom lens. But I do think about selling it all the time because I guess I'm just old school. You know, I don't like AI. I don't like too much help. I like some help, you know, I do. I mean, but you know, I'm also the person who's driven a clutch most of his life, although I have an automatic now, but I don't know. I want to choose my camera based on what I want to do with it. I want to choose my lenses the same way. Like creatively, how am I going to use this lens? I don't want stuff that's just doing everything for me so that it doesn't even matter. Like really the only decision you're making these days is, do I want to spend $800 or $1,500? But the cameras are basically the same. You know, a ZV-E10 or a Sony A6700. I mean, I guess 10-bit versus 8-bit, that's really the only difference between those cameras. You know, slow motion at 240, you know, 4K, still a crop, but okay, you can't do that on a ZV-E10, but they're the same cameras basically, same capabilities. One's $700, one's $1,500. My camera now is less than $1,000, Panasonic S5, full frame, and all of this capability. But if you're an AI person, you're definitely not going to be into my camera, or my lenses, or my way of working, my aesthetic, I don't know. But I still think as long as I have a good story, whether you're into AI or not, whether you're into all this kind of new stuff that's coming into our lives, whether or not you are that person, I feel like as long as I have a good story, you'll like what I do. And vice versa, as long as you have a good story, I'm probably going to like what you do. Because I don't really care how you did it. I don't hate how you did it. It doesn't make a difference to me. You know, I'm never going to look at it like, oh, that's not legitimate. I don't feel that way. I'll never do it. To me, it's just like, oh, man, you made me cry. You made me laugh. You made me feel something. That's all I really care about. So I'm just, I guess, talking from my own personal perspective of how I like to work. I don't want that taken away from me. So, all right, that's enough for today. I'm gonna get back to my movie. Thanks for watching. And please subscribe. And please hit the like button. I said it. All right.